In my last video, I went through various different mobility tests that you can do at home to test your flexibility. I use these tests all the time in clinical practice, and I use them to get an idea of what my patients can and can't do, and it gives me an idea of where they need to focus their efforts. So in today's video, I'm going to show you the exact stretches that I would prescribe based on the results of those mobility tests. So the first test that you would have seen is, can you get your chin to your chest? If you can't, it indicates that there's tightness at the back of your neck. So the first stretch is simply to drop your head down, try and get your chin as far as it will go. With your hands, just place them on the back of your head. Now you're not pushing your head, okay? So just use the weight of your hands to assist your head down. So it would look like this. So I've got my hands on the back of my head, and I'm just using the weight of my hands to push my head down. Of course, if you feel any pain, then just stop. From the side, my hands are on my head, bringing my head down. Stop when you feel like your neck can't go any further, and hold for 20 to 60 seconds. The next one was rotation of the neck. You should ideally be able to get your chin just in line with your shoulder. If you can't, whichever direction you find the most difficult, you're going to start with that. So let's say I struggle to go to my left. I'm going to go as far as I can, and then with a free hand, doesn't matter which hand, you can go across your body or same side. Put your hand on the side of your face. Just above your jaw there's a bone, the cheekbone. So use your hand to press against that and turn your head and just gently push. Go as far as you feel comfortable and hold again for 20 to 60 seconds. Once you've done the bad side, obviously try the other side as well. The idea is that you want to be able to get your neck to rotate in equal amounts. Now, if you have any degeneration in your neck, for example arthritis, then you may not be able to get your head too far around. But that doesn't matter. Let's say you can only go to there on one side, but you can go to there on the other. Then obviously this side you want to try and improve so it matches the better side. The next one is to get full shoulder flexion. Now, I would like to see your arm going all the way up so that your arm is in line with your ear. The stretch to this is ideally to use a band. Obviously, to use one of these, you need to be able to attach it up onto something. So for example, if you go to a gym, attach it to a piece of the equipment. If you don't, then you can modify that and use a door frame. So I'll show you both. If you're using a band, make your arm straight and then step forwards and just push forwards until you feel a bit of a stretch going through here. Of course, if you feel any pain, then just stop. Now, if you don't have a band, then what you can do is just use the top of a door frame. So you put your hand on the top of the door frame and just push yourself through like this. But let's say that you can't even, you're not even tall enough to touch the door frame, or for example, you're in a wheelchair. What you could do is use a surface where you can lean forwards against. So let's just assume that I'm sat down and this is a surface that would ordinarily be around chest height. What you could do is then lean forwards and stretch your shoulder this way. The next test that I did was a scratch test. So how far up your back can you take your hand? Ideally, you want to see it around there and then the other side as well. So if you can't do this, again, we can use a band. And with this one, what you're going to do is take your hand behind you. I always get people to lean forward so it takes that strain off the shoulder. Then bend the arm and then gradually just stand up. Now this one can come on very quickly and it can be very painful, so go really slowly and very cautiously. Alternatively, if you don't have a band, then what you could do is grab hold of a door frame. Just grab it there with your arm bent behind you and twist your body so that you take your hand further behind you. So the next test was to be able to touch your toes. If you can't touch your toes, that implies you're probably very tight through the back of the hamstrings. So to stretch out the hamstrings, you need to put your foot, your heel, up onto something. It could be a chair, it could be a step. So heel up onto something, have your knee bent, keep your chest up nice and tall, and then lean forwards from your waist. From here you should start to feel it through the back of the legs. If you can't, then try and push your knee a little bit straighter. So you should feel it through here. You shouldn't feel like you're having any nerve being pulled out from the back of your knee. Shouldn't cause you any back pain, but you should just feel it through the back of the hamstring. I would do 20 seconds to start with, building it up towards 60 seconds, and obviously do both sides. Now the next stretch we're going to do is for the hips. This is arguably one of the most important stretches that you will do today. The test was, can you get your knee in line with your foot or with your ankle? So is your shin bone horizontal? Now a lot of people are around here. So to do the stretch, you bring your foot up onto your knee. Now make sure that your foot is not on your knee because you don't want to overstretch your ankles. Take your foot across, hold onto your shin or hold onto your ankle, and then with your elbow, you're going to push your knee down. Now, some people find it too difficult to even get their foot up onto here. So you could grab something like a towel or a band, put that around your ankle, and then use that to get your leg into place. Hold that while you push this knee down. It doesn't matter too much whether that foot is up here or up here, depends on what you can do. So don't worry if you can't get your foot up here. Over time, hopefully it will. And also hopefully over time, your knee will go from this position down to a more horizontal position. With this stretch, just be aware that sometimes it can cause you a bit of discomfort on the outside of your knee. That's just where you're pushing down, is putting a bit of force through the knee. I would start again with 20 seconds, build that up to a minute over time, and obviously do both sides, but focus more so on the side that is worse. Now, if you've discovered that your knee flexion is not so good, then this stretch is going to be brilliant for that. I'm not expecting you to have one of these, but if you've got an arm of a sofa or a chair, or just something that you can put your foot up on, that is perfect. So whatever it is, put your foot up onto the object, let's call it the arm of a sofa, and then from here, just push yourself backwards, trying to get your bum all the way to touch your heels. The key to do this is to keep your hips pushed forwards. If you start to bend at the hips, you're going to find it a lot easier to bring yourself into this position. So when you start further away from the arm of the sofa, push your hips forward, squeeze your bum, and then lean back, keeping your hips straight. Right now I can already feel the stretch, so I'm going to hold for 20 seconds and then change sides to the other side. Build it up from 20 seconds to 60 seconds on both sides. So an alternative to the stretch that I've just showed you, this is another possibility. So like I said in my previous video, not everyone can get their bum down to touch their heels. This is ideally where you want to be. But let's say you can only get to about here. So what you can do is grab yourself some cushions or rolled up towels or yoga blocks and put them just on your heels. From there, you sit down and see how that feels. If that's stretching, then you hold that, and then over time you might find that that starts to loosen up. If it does, then you can take one of the blocks out, and then you've got a slightly further distance to go. If that starts to stretch, then you hold that until eventually over the coming weeks or months that gets better, and then you can take this one out as well. Over time you're just gradually taking a little bit further and a bit further. But the point of these blocks is to be able to take yourself into a stretch without putting so much force through your knees that you're going to cause yourself problems. So you want just enough pressure to be feeling like it's stretching or to feel like your knees are tight, but not so much pressure that you're going to start causing a tendonitis in the knees. So the last of the tests that we went through was to do with your ankle flexion. It was essentially how far could you push your knee forwards while bringing your foot back in relation to the wall. So the bigger the gap, the better the test result. The idea was that you should try and be about 5 inches from toes to wall. Now, if you feel that there is some kind of pinching or discomfort in the front of your ankle here, then what you're going to need is a band. So the band needs to be wrapped around something sturdy. From there, you put your foot into the band, but you're facing away from the band this time, and take your foot forwards so there's a stretch going through the band, and then take your knee forwards. That should start to relieve a bit of the tension through the ankle. You can then take your foot even further forward and repeat. If you find that the band helps to relieve some of that pinching, then this is what you need to work on. I would take the foot as far forward as I could, stretch for about 20 seconds, take the strain off, then repeat, but this time with my foot a bit further forward, and repeat again. And just keep going until the point where you feel that the band is at a maximal stretch and that your heel is about to start lifting up off the floor. But if you found that that test doesn't cause you any discomfort in the front of your ankle, but instead you feel that there's just tightness through the back, then we're going to go through a calf stretch instead. So the last of the stretches for the calves is to find something sturdy to push against. Take your leg that you want to stretch back and have your leg straight. So lock your knee straight. From here, push your heel down into the ground and push your hips forwards. So you're pushing against the sturdy object, pushing your heel down into the ground, and you've got your knee straight. Do this for 20 to 60 seconds. Once you've done that, change sides to the other side. Once you've done that, then the next thing you can do is get yourself into the same position, but instead of having your knee straight, I would bring my foot slightly further forwards, bend my knee, but I'm still keeping my heel down to the ground. So I'm bending the knee and I'm trying to push my knee down towards the floor. One thing you have to make sure is that your foot is not turned outwards. You want your foot pointing straight, knee bent, and your knee should be over your toes. So the stretch with the straight leg, you should feel that more towards the top of the calf. And then the stretch with the bent knee, you should feel that more towards the bottom of the calf. So now that you've done all of those stretches, go away and try them. Let me know in the comments section below which one of those stretches you found the most difficult. Which one do you have the most range of movement to improve on? Just remember this, be patient, be consistent and be patient. The chances are you probably in your 40s or above, and so you've probably been this way for many, many years. So it's not going to take weeks or even months to overcome this tightness. It may take months to years, but the more consistent you are, the greater the chances of getting a good result. So give that a try and let me know how you get on.